update them, such as saying if they're checked in, are they completed, so you can track that internally to know where a prescription is at any given time. So just to share with you, that's something you have as a capability as well. So from here, I mean, just to kind of showcase you how the account works. So when you initially log in, you're going to have a dashboard here that's going to list all your prescriptions for you. I'm actually showing you a revised dashboard. This is part of a monthly update we're getting ready to release next week. So we've added some categories here to kind of clean up how you're able to see all your prescriptions. Obviously, you're going to have pages and pages of them, so we have these tabs on the side here where you can look at cases that are specifically saved, which are ones that maybe you've created that you haven't submitted yet. Additionally, you can look at ones that have already been checked into the lab, whether it's that specialty or if it's in-house, and also too ones that are shipped and ones that you've already received back from the lab. So again, just to give you a way to track your cases a little bit more meticulously, and we also provide you a date range here. So if you don't want to look at all your prescriptions, you can, for example, look at ones that are just within a 30-day time period, 15 days, just whatever seems to be feasible for you. So you mentioned that you do send to specialty. So one item that would be good for you to know is specialty does use our software. They are one of our labs that are listed on our EasyRX Powered Labs page. They're listed right here. One item, as far as when you send cases to them, you should know is they're not fully utilizing our software. And by that, I mean when you send the case to them, they're currently not entering in the tracking number to the appliance once it's shipped out. They're still emailing their customers that information. I'm actively working with them to provide them a way to automate that so that when they do ship it out and they send an email to you, we're going to be able to mark these cases as shipped inside of EasyRX so you can access the tracking number both ways to make things a little bit more streamlined. So that's what we're currently doing with specialty, and I thought that was important to share with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, are you using APO, Orthodontic Lab? Is that in there?
APO, I'm not.
No, I don't see it. Okay.
One thing I would tell you is if you have a lab, for example, such as APO that may not currently be using EasyRX, we provide the labs a free lab account. So if you want them to join up just so you can submit your cases to them, one of my jobs here as the business development coordinator is I not only help demo these software to both the practice and labs, but I also do most of the training here. So if I need to, for example, even for you, if you want me to sit down for 30 minutes after you sign up and just teach your staff how to go through the software, how to submit cases, we provide the training at no charge. And same goes for the labs. So most labs that I show our software to, since it's free of charge to them, I haven't heard any reservations that have prevented a lab from signing up other than just making sure their staff gets trained on it. So that's something I'd be happy to work with you on.
And then if we do an in-house lab, if we do this for in-house lab, so the in-house person has to have a computer in the lab, and that's how she tracks it. Like the prescription is all on the computer, obviously.
So the infrastructure of our software is it is all cloud-based. The only thing you guys need is an active internet connection and some sort of device that has an internet browser, so that you can have an iPad, a computer, a laptop, and I mean you can access it literally anywhere. And the good thing is, even if you guys, let's say for example, you don't want to create user accounts to keep things simple. Even if you have one account you use to log into EasyRX, you can have multiple people using the same account. So for example, if you had your lab technician log in using your login, it won't boot you off in case you're working on your end as well. So we allow for multiple login instances.
Okay.
As far as, I guess the question for you is, do you have just one lab technician, or can you kind of give me an idea of how many staff you would foresee using if they were to adopt it?
I don't see how to adopt it in my office because our system is working really well right now. And it's been working this way for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
So implementing something like this, that she has to get up and go to a computer. She has a computer in there, but it's not right at her workspace. So I just see it being not using it for an in-house lab. I don't see how that would work well. I do see using it for potentially specialty or whichever lab I decide to use.
Okay.
Um, but that wouldn't be that many appliances, so.
Okay. Well, let me do this. I mean, at minimal, let me go ahead and at least show you how the Dolphin integration works. I think at some point, again, it sounds like what you mentioned, your system's working pretty well. If you were to submit to specialty, at least I found with some of the doctors like yourself that have in-house plans, consolidating that workflow into one central area, such as EasyRX, it becomes a little helpful. So I would just say that if you did come on board, if you wanted to maybe just try seeing if managing some of these prescriptions in-house is helpful, again, whatever works best for your lab, but it's something where I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you to at least try submitting to the in-house lab to see if your lab tech likes it or to see if it helps make it any more efficient than you already have.
Yeah, no, I would introduce it to her for sure and let her make the decision.
Okay, excellent. So let me at least go ahead and show you how the Dolphin integration works. And this will just kind of be an example workflow, let's say, if you were to have EasyRX. So let's say you have a patient that comes into your office and they need a Holly retainer made. So the way the Dolphin integration works is you'll first want to go ahead and pull up the patient's record or treatment card. In this case, I'll use the generic Samantha Jones patient name here. You'll want to go ahead and pull up their information. So let's wait a second here while that pulls. And once you have their record up, you would have a button at the bottom left-hand side here under the Integrations tab. When you select it, you're going to see a button icon for EasyRX. So you'll be able to select that button. We'll automatically then go ahead and import the patient's first name, last name, date of birth, whatever the external patient ID is, as well as their appointment data into EasyRX.
So that's automatic?
Yes, we automatically pull that in.
Okay.
So from here, in this case, I've already imported Samantha a couple times before. She's got a little history with me on some different appliances. If the appointment data has changed since the last time I used the integration button, it'll go ahead and update here. So you'll notice her next appointment date is coming up on the 23rd. It also does list the location for you as well. Do you guys use Dolphin imaging by any chance?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, so there is also an integration built into Dolphin Imaging for EasyRX. I would recommend for you guys to use management. That reason being is because in imaging, they don't have appointment data, so that would not pull over. So for you guys, you probably want to use it streamlined with Dolphin Management so you get the appointment data when you use the integration, just as a little side note for you.
Okay.
So from here, let's go ahead and get that Holly retainer prescription made for Samantha. So on this page, I'll just want to click this Create RX button. It asks you for some optional information. If, for example, you don't know the date that it's needed yet, you can leave it blank. But let's say I know it's going to be needed by this time next week. Do you have just one location or do you have multiple? Do you know?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. So if you guys were to expand, you can add other office locations, but in the meantime, you just have one selection to go for. And also, too, it'll ask you which laboratory. This is crucial. It'll ask you whether it's going to get submitted to your in-house lab or if it's going to go to, for example, an outside lab. So here you'd have specialty would be one of the options, but I'm just going to use a test lab for my example here. So we'll go ahead and create the prescription. And this is where you're probably familiar with is creating the appliance from our canvas here. So for you, you're probably initially when you sign up, you're going to want to spend a little time piecing together some templates of your most commonly used appliances. I've got a Holly here that I've previously pre-configured that's for my upper and my lower. And by clicking the template, it'll drag all the parts in there, so I don't need to manually search for each part and drag it in. It's all here at my disposal. You're still able to make some minor adjustments. Let's say we need to adjust some of the parts on here. If I want to add some additional part options, such as specifying the type of bow it is, I can change that, or it can be pre-configured in the template as you see. And also go ahead and assign the acrylic colors. As part of the premium account, you'll have this nifty little acrylic color chart to choose from. We pull the color chart from the lab that you will be submitting to. So if this were going to specialty, for example, we'd have the color choices that specialty would have available for you to choose from. Or if this were your in-house lab, we'd be able to customize the colors you'd have available there. So it makes it easier so you don't have to type it out. But we do also include a notes area on here. Let's say there's a color that's not listed. or there's special instructions, you can just, add in a custom note here to go along with that color selection. Also, too, what scanner do you guys use in-house?
iTero, Element.
Element, very cool. So we do have the iTero integration available for you. So what you guys would do is when you're done scanning Samantha, it's going to give you an iTero case order ID number. You're just going to want to type that case order ID number in here, and let me see if I can type in just a test number here. Odds are this isn't going to go to a particular ID, but what we do here, let's assume this was a real scan number. We would verify for you, first off, that the scan exists for that patient, and also, too, if the scan correlates with the patient's name. So if this were Samantha Jones, it'll say this case exists and it belongs to Samantha Jones. That way it decreases the likelihood that you guys enter a wrong number and send the wrong scan to the lab. So we verify that information up front. If let's just say this wasn't an iTero scan, or you had like your own STL file you wanted to attach, you can just select your own files manually from here and then go ahead and add that into the case. Any data that you put into our software, just as a high level note, you own 100% of the data. So we don't, for example, if you were to leave EasyRX or you wanted to take your data, we would export it for you, and again, you have full retention of it. We don't own any of it. So let's assume here I went ahead and attached a manual STL file since I don't have a real iTero case ID. So I'm going to be sending this to the lab just to show you a couple other options on here as far as what these other tabs are for. If this were an aligner case, you have an aligner treatment tab that you can specify here. You'd be able to choose the treatment goals, some of the other options in here as well if this were an aligner case. And we also provide a indirect bonding form as well. So if this were an indirect bonding case, you can specify here type of arch wires, bracket types, etc. And all these are pulled from the lab's configuration. So you won't be able to choose a selection that, let's say, for example, the lab will not be able to provide. So let's assume everything else looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and submit this particular case, and it's going to bring us to this little checkout page. Again, any custom notes at the top you can enter here. If let's just say this particular prescription was sitting around a while and we just got around to it, if it's changed hands or maybe it's changed the location it needs to go to, you can make adjustments here. Also, too, we'll ask you where's the model source coming from. So you'll notice because we attached an STL file, I have the ability to specify to the lab to look at the digital model that I've attached to this prescription. And finally, I'll just want to sign off on it by clicking this little radio button, and then the prescription has been submitted. So what I mentioned to you earlier about specialty is we want to get it to the point where when they're done creating the appliance, they're able to mark it as shipped here, so it'll record the date that they've shipped it out along with the tracking number. So that's something where someone like you at some point will be able to see that workflow, so you don't need to call them or email them saying, hey, where's my appliance at? I need to get filled in. We try to design this workflow bar to reduce items like that to make things more efficient. If you need to also download this as a PDF, we give you the ability to do that. Let's say this was like, for example, a plaster model you were going to send to the lab. You're able to print it off and include it in the package or in of some sort. And likewise for the lab, they can do the same thing. So that's really the workflow of submitting the case. We do also keep track of the revision history. Let's say you give your clinicians access to create prescriptions. We record the user. We record when it's been changed. So if, let's say, someone makes a big mistake and you have to go back to a previous version, you don't have to recreate the prescription from scratch. So we provide you that all capability, and that's regardless of which account you go with. One other thing to show you, a couple cool features, is we have a 3D previewer inside of the software. So if you want to take a look at your model before you submit it or even after, you've got a browser-based viewer you can look at to check out the STL file. Normally people use this to verify there's no holes or intersects in the model. Again, just a little freebie button you can call it for people to use. And also we have an STL file scrubbing feature we recently added. So let's say if this particular model did have a hole in it or an intersect and we needed to clean up the model, we have an automatic scrubber built into the software. And what we do, just to give you the technical detail, is we use AutoCAD to go ahead and clean up the model in our servers, and then we end up re-uploading the file back to the prescription. The scrubbing feature is something you guys can use, or let's say if you didn't use it or you didn't know there was a problem with the model, the lab can scrub it on their end using the software as well, since they'll have their own account. So it's just something there to, again, prevent you guys from having to go into like Ortho Analyzer or one of these other tools to manually clean it up. So that way, again, that's a process you can eliminate from your workflow. So in about a minute here, that new file should be attached. Let me just refresh my page and see if it's been attached yet. Normally it takes 1 or 2 minutes for it to occur, but once that's done, it'll attach the subscription and the lab will have a copy of it as well. So I can literally go ahead and go back to my dashboard and it'll complete it when it's done on our servers. And now you'll be able to see, here's my prescription that I've submitted to the lab. And when I receive it back, if you want to be a little bit more detailed, you can state that you've received it. If you do have those multiple offices, you can specify which one. And also, we've recently added a tab where you can mark it as delivered to the patient. So if you want to record the day and time that it was given to the patient, just the day, not the time this time, but it'll be able to tell you that it's been delivered to the patient on the status page here. So that's it. That's the workflow. So I guess what questions do you have, or what areas can we look at further for you?
Do you guys have a library of appliances that are already created, right?
So let's take a look here and check out the various parts and appliances. I'm just going to go to an existing prescription so I can access our library. So we have over 500 different parts and appliances put together inside of our library. If you go through and there's something we don't have, which is pretty rare unless it's a supremely custom appliance, we would add that in there for you at no charge. That's something we've done in the past. And unless you have a list of 100, which is very unlikely, then we'll take care of that for you at no charge. And we typically do it within a few days.
Okay.
For you, an important thing you'll want is, I'm sure you have your own particular ways you do specific appliances, like your Hollies, for example. You'll notice in the one that I used in my example, I had some recurve springs here. So you're able to, adjust them as needed. For example, what's the typical positioning you like to use? So you'll want to go through and create templates, which are just variations of different appliances that you normally use. That way you don't have to dig through and waste time adjusting each one on each case.
What does that stand for, B and M?
Okay, so these little notes that are next to the appliance and the part, they specify a few things. In this case, this pink circle just says which arch it belongs to. In this case, it's B for both. If it says U, it's upper. If it says L, it's for lower. So let me clear off my canvas here real quick. If I pull in this Holly with the U next to it, you'll notice it's just bringing part of the appliance to the upper. It's not putting anything on the lower. So that way, if you have got like 3 Hollies, you'll know which one goes to which arches and which ones are completely for both. The M next to it stands for which practice is this template assigned to. There are some instances where the lab, like for example, let's say specialty, they may create a template that they normally like to receive at their lab where they can share it with you. So M just means this template can be applied to multiple practices or different user accounts, or if it just belongs to you guys specifically. In other words, the templates can be shared and you can specify permissions for sharing them or not. That's all the blue circle stands for.
And what did you say the B was?
The U is just...
no, the B.
Oh, the B. The B means it's for both arches, so upper
and
lower.
I got you. Got it.
Upper L, lower.
Gotcha.
So that way, if you've got 2 of the same appliances named the same thing, you'll at least be able to take a look at which arch it's going to be placed on before you select it.
Right.
So, and there is some custom notes. You'll notice we've got these little icons up at the top. You're able to do things like, for example, adding a text annotation, which I won't do since you already saw I had one on that prescription there. If you wanted to, for example, add a tag is something really unique that we provide. It's basically a custom note that you can add to the prescription. Let's say, for example, on this prescription, the model wasn't feasible, that we weren't able to use it. We could just say, for example, that this particular prescription is on hold. So by adding a tag, here's what it'll show it to you as. When we go back to the prescription dashboard, anything that has this particular note where it's on hold, it's denoted by a pink circle. You can have more than one tag added to a prescription. So I have some doctors that'll add tags for things like, okay, is this a rush case? Are we waiting for patient information? They'll use these to get a high-level view of what's going on with the case at any given time without necessarily having to go in and view it in order to tell. So these are things that can be customized by you. Some doctors like to, if you have like 3 or 4 doctors, which I'll give you one example here. I have a practice that does have multiple doctors. They'll have a tag that represents one particular doctor. So anything that's in blue goes to Dr. Joe. Anything that's in green goes to Dr. Mike. They use these tags to make their workflow easy. So it's something you'll probably get to play with and figure out if you want to make use of it or not, just as a little extra feature.
Okay.
So yeah, again, that's the workflow. So what other questions do you have for me?
I think that's it.
Okay, and again, I would share with you, I mean, if it seems of any benefit, since you do get your first month free, if you did want to just try out the premium first, I know cost seemed like it may have been an issue in the email when you mentioned it to me as far as whether it be feasible or not. At least try the premium for a month, see if it makes sense, and then after the month, you can either go down to the per script plan, or, if you find it absolutely not usable at all, again, you're welcome to cancel at any point. We don't charge you a penalty for it. So do you think it makes sense to sign up, or did you want to maybe get with your lab tech and kind of discuss the feasibility first?
Yeah, I need to get with her because I just don't know if it would work. For instance, you take an impression in our office and you write out a lab slip, you just check the appliance that she's making and it stays with that model.
Mm-hmm. How are you guys filing it away though? How are you managing that slip after it's complete? Are you guys just scanning it and putting it on a computer or filing it away in like a file cabinet? I'm just curious.
I think she keeps it in a date order until it's completed. And then it's scanned into the chart. Okay, I see. All right. Well, in that case, if it's of any benefit to your lab tech, since it sounds like that person's going to have some say as to whether that in-house lab module at least would be of help or not, just let her know. I can set up a little demo to just show how the in-house lab works, and at least if she is the actual technician, they'll be able to, obviously see whether or not it'll be beneficial to them, or if you would just be using this to send the specialty. Again, I just want whatever's going to help streamline your workflow, and if you've already done this for 18 years one way, I know change is usually a little difficult thing to do, but also too, I don't want to throw any wrenches inside of your current workflow if it's going to cause any confusion. So I guess if you want to just let me know after this which way you want to go, I'll be happy to follow up with you, and I will get you an answer to that question I had as far as if those are bands in the rear of that appliance or not. Again, if there's anything that's not clear, I usually try to get answers, so I apologize I didn't have that for you on the spot. I don't know enough about the appliance to say so. No, that's okay. Now those I also want to know, those are not stainless steel crowns, they look like bands, but
okay.
I'm sure they have a stainless steel crown option, so.
One quick thing I wanted to note to you, since you just mentioned it brought up something I kind of missed, is when you are creating an appliance, let me just show you this real briefly. Actually, you may have seen this while I was creating one of the parts, but there are a lot of appliances and parts that have this little part options wheel that you can go to. Like you'll notice here, this appliance alone, I've got 6 different items that I can add options to, some of which are just repeats because it's on the lower and the upper. But you're able to, for example, on the bows, change the bow type, and also for the acrylic, you can specify what the acrylic material is. A lot of times when we get new users that go into the software, they'll say, hey, do I have to type here what the acrylic material is for the lap? But no, you'll just want to go in, and it's really getting an initial feel for which parts have which options. Because most of the answers that people need to the questions like, hey, can this part do this? We put it here in this part options field. So that's something you guys will probably end up exploring if you were to go in and make sure we have all the parts that you need and what have you. So that's something I'd urge you to look at if you were to come on board.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Ulrich, I really appreciate your time. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. And if you wanted to maybe follow up with me on an email after you talk with your lab tech, if it is of any benefit for me to do a demo with them, I'm happy to do that for you. And just keep in touch and let me know which direction you'd want to go. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, appreciate it.
Have a great weekend too, okay?
You too, thanks. Bye-bye.